Hi, welcome to this presentation on wireless security standards, or the IEEE 802.11 as it is also known. My name is Anke Coster and I am presenting today as part of my CYB 60004 Networks and Cybersecurity Frameworks. The presentation will cover a short overview of the history of the 802.11 standard. We'll look at the reason that security had to increase over the 21 years since its inception in 1999, and also how the number of users using wireless networks have increased substantially since 1993 to today, where about 7 billion people are using wireless networks. We look at the standards that a router can be configured with to make the network more safer. We look at web, WPA, WPA2, WPA3, WPS and DDP, and also at the access control list that can be configured. So first of all, let's look at the development of the standard since it was incepted in 1999. The IEEE released the 802.11a standard in 1999. At the time, it was transmitting at 54 megabits per second, and today, in 2019, the latest standard was released, and it is the 802.11ax. It's also called Wi-Fi, and it is transmitting at between 10 and 12 gig per second. The next one that is expected for release is Wi-Fi 7. It's expected to be 802.11be, and at this point it's unclear what the specs for that particular standard will be. Watch this space. So, over the years, the standard has developed. It had some issues. For example, the 802.11b had the issue that it was transmitting at 2.4 gigahertz frequency, which was the same frequency as devices like microwaves and cordless phones. So there were transmission issues experienced because of that. The 802.11 standard was 11AC was released in 2014, and 2019 was superseded, as we said, by the 802.11ax, which is also called Wi-Fi 6. The wireless 802.11 standard has some security issues. To mitigate this, you can configure your router with password-protected protocols. These protocols include WEP, WPA, WPA2, and WPA3. The key risk of an unprotected network is that the password can be compromised by the hacker. They gain access to the wireless device, and then gain access to your network, where they can access whatever network data or network devices you have on the net. So data integrity and a robust network is a purpose when we configure our router. So let's look at the first one, which is the WEP, or Wired Equivalent Privacy Protocol. It was developed in 1999. It is the earliest wireless security protocol, and it encrypts at 40-bit with a 40-bit encryption key. This has already been hacked and is not a very safe protocol to use. If it is one of the options in your router configuration table, better not to use it if a more robust one is available. At the next one, the Wi-Fi Protected Access, which is WPA protocol, stronger encryption, and it uses TCIP, Temporal Key Integrity Protocol. This protocol is stronger than WEP. It has already been hacked, but it does encrypt at 64-bit, which is stronger than WEP. What makes it stronger is that it dynamically changes its key while it's in use, and as we said, what makes it strong is the TCIP protocol. Moving on to the next one, which is the WPA2, which is Wi-Fi Protected Access. This uses the AES protocol, which is an advanced encryption standard. It is associated with the CCMP, which is Cipher Block Chaining Message Authentication Code Protocol. It is considered to be that strong that the US uses it to encrypt its secure data. Of the protocols on the market at the moment, or the routers configured with protocols, this is definitely one of the more robust ones to use. What makes it strong is that the key that it is configured with changes all the time, and therefore it makes it much harder to crack or to hack. What you can also do is use a mixed security option, so a mix of the protocols, as long as when you configure your router table, you use the most robust protocol available to give your network the best protection against hackers and other threat vectors. This is just an example of what options you can get in your router configuration table. As I mentioned, if you have the option to put in WPA, TKIP, or AES, or CCMP, any of those protocols, it is best to choose those ones over weaker ones like WEP or WPA or WPA2 even. Another way that the router can be configured to secure a network is if you press the WPS button, the Wi-Fi protected setup. Some wireless devices come with this option. The benefit of it is that users who are not very technical can simply press on the button, press on the button on the device, press on the button on the router. The device and the router will find each other, and it will connect. The benefit of this is it's a push button setup, and there's no password required, so the user doesn't need to remember a password to connect. The WPS has, however, been overtaken already by different standards. That is the DDP, and that standard supersedes the WPS. Now, the next one to look at is the WPA3 standard, released back in 2018. It is a very robust standard. The improvement of it includes that it's a quick connection of Wi-Fi devices, higher security for the network. The Wi-Fi device provisioning protocol, or the DPP, which has now replaced the WPS, is also available. And the DPP that I mentioned earlier, it uses NFC, which is a way for Internet of Things devices to connect securely to the WPA3 standard. The WPA3 standard also uses the Dragonfly handshake. And what is that, you might ask? So the Dragonfly handshake, or the simultaneous authentication of equals, the SAE protocol. And what makes it safe is that it requires an encryption key for new interactions within the network. So for any new interaction that comes to the network, you need a new encryption key, which makes it that much safer. So NFC, as I mentioned, is part of this protocol. It's a near field communication protocol. The benefit of it is easy to connect to. It's low on security though, and it doesn't need to remember a password. The garage, for example, the garage door key or a mobile phone can use NFC to connect to a port. So IoT devices can use NFC to simply tap on devices, and there's a connection. It needs to be very closer. It can't be intercepted over a long distance. And things like mobile phone devices, you can enable your NFC protocol and tap to make payments. That uses the NFC protocol. The next security feature to look at is of configuring access control on your router. The access control uses MAC keys of a laptop or a network card, for example. These MAC addresses can be configured and put into the router table of a router. That way, the router will only accept the MAC addresses that have been configured into the router table. Those MAC addresses that go to the router and apply to get access to the network that's not on the router table or the access control list will not be included on the network. It is a very secure way to protect your network. This slide is just a summary of between of the different protocols that we've just looked at. So the WEP, the TKIP, and the CCNP. Now that we've looked at the different protocols that you can configure the router with, let's have a look at, just very briefly to end the presentation, possible attacks that that you should be aware of, that you can protect against, is man-in-the-middle attack, or MITM, evil twin attack, rogue access points that tries to access your network, cracking attacks, deauthentication, ARP or DNS spoofing, SLL stripping, handshake, capture to encrypt or decrypt. And what we talked about before is IoT devices. They are more vulnerable, and if they try and access your network, they might not be protected at the same level as the other devices, which has WPA3 or more robust protocols. So it is good if those ones use, for example, NFC or WPA3. Ends this presentation today. I will open the floor for any questions, and I thank you very much for your time today. Thank you.